So, good afternoon from me as well. I'm Marianna Skylakaki, CEO and founder of Athinea. We do a lot of great work, I think, with women on top on various fronts. And today, in this important forum, we will be talking about financial literacy and financial education, which is an important pillar of women's empowerment. To discuss this topic, we have with us Anna Maria Lusardi, Professor of Economics and Accountancy at the George Washington University, and one of the world's leading experts, if not the leading expert, on these topics, financial education, financial literacy, whose name, for anyone who has veered close to research around the topic, comes up again and again and again. So it's truly a great, great honor and pleasure to have you with us, Professor. I hope you can hear us. It feels a bit lonely on this panel, but we have you with us now.
Yes, I can hear you well. Thank you for the invitation.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being with us. I'd like to start with a bit of a foundational question, because financial literacy is a term that I've talked about a lot over the past 2 years. Before that, though, it was a term that a lot of people don't necessarily know a lot about. So I'd like to ask you why you think financial literacy is such an important component of female empowerment and this agenda.
Thank you again for inviting me to speak about a topic that we are indeed very passionate about. And I think more than ever, we need to think and define financial literacy for women. First of all, women live longer than men. And so we need, and they need to have the knowledge that is really necessary to make the decision that fit their needs. We also know that women have a different labor market attachment. For example, they might spend time raising children and so on. So yet again, we need a financial literacy that allows them to make good decisions. We also know there is a pay gap between women and men. So they have to be aware of this. And I always say women need to bargain for their wage and ask for a raise. Second, and third, actually, we see that in many countries, there is also much more an increase in, for example, in the divorce rate and so on. And so, women need to be financially independent.
I think we're having a little bit of trouble hearing you. Would you mind repeating your last sentence?
Oh, sure. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Oh, okay. So let me just maybe summarize. So women live longer, women have a different labor market attachment, women have to be financially independent because there is a divorce rate that they need to take into account, and the risk around us has also increased. So we need to be financially resilient as well to unexpected shock, like the macro shock that we have experiencing as well in these times.
Resilience, and resilience is a term that we hear a lot in this discussion about sustainability and climate change. We'll get back to that with a question a little bit later, because I'd like to ask what your opinion is regarding where the responsibility for financial literacy stands. Is it a journey that a woman can embark on by herself, or does it need to be a bigger part of formal education to get the results that we need?
I always prefer, I have to say, the formal education for many reasons. First of all, it's a way to reach everybody. If you leave it to the individuals, then it's very likely that we will grow unequal, because not everybody can start this journey alone, and not everybody has let's say, parents or friends and colleagues that allow them to start a good journey. So having it in the school, I think, allows to reach everybody. Second, it is more rich. We need people to have access to a good financial education, to a good financial literacy, not just common sense, or sometimes something that has low quality. And second, we need to make it as easy as possible. So it's hard to start a journey alone to be financially literate. So that's why I think we need to start in school. We can continue in the workplace, and we can continue in the many places where people are and go to get the information. And I think in that way, we can achieve something more inclusive, of higher quality, and it's going to be much easier for everybody.
Now, talking about formal education and making financial literacy a priority for governments, I was wondering if you could share with us some of the most effective policy instruments and initiatives that you have come across the globe, and also give us a sense of how cost-effective financial education is. Is it a good investment to be making?
I want to start with this last question and say, probably that's the best investment. It's the investment, I always say, that pays the highest rate of interest. So let's make an investment in education, in particularly at this time. Knowledge, information, being able to make financial decisions is of incredible importance. We have seen many programs around the world to how to create cost-effective program, how to improve financial literacy for the women. And I want to repeat again just how important it is to have it in the school. Not only because it gives the signal that we are interested in this topic, but via the school we reach also the adults, we reach the parents, we reach the mothers, and so it's incredibly important that we start there, and also young women will start learning about this topic in a rigorous way. But we should not stop there. We need it in the workplace. But when we have it in the workplace, it is very important that it is personalized. That, for example, it is really done following the needs and the consideration of women. So we need very personalized program, and the workplace is ideal because this is where adults are. They are mostly at work. And third, we need to have it in all of the places that, for example, women go to get information. So I'm always surprised, for example, that we don't see personal finance and personal finance articles in magazine dedicated to women. It's important, it's useful and sexy to actually have this information in the magazine. I want to know about the latest fashion and shoes, but I also want to know about decision about personal finance. For example, I love the movie Sex in the City, but I want to have, discussion of personal finance there as well. So, I hope we can put it everywhere women go to get information.
Yes, and I think I agree, and especially in Greece, we often have trouble talking about money at all. It's quite a taboo subject sometimes. So I think to the extent that money is related to personal finance, and it is, we have to start getting over these taboos and really making it a sexy topic, because it is. It's a very, very important tool. So thank you for that reference. Now, in terms of, I would like, you mentioned the workplace, and obviously there are things we can and should be doing in the workplace, and there are a lot of people who are no longer students, so they need to get that information somewhere. But talking about the younger generation and talking about young people, why is it so important for people of a younger age to build these foundations in terms of their financial knowledge and skill set? Why is it so important to get them engaged on this topic from a very early age?
Because socializations about money starts very early. We start this money habit very, very early. And this is why, when we think of school, we should think not just of elementary school, but we should think even earlier. And in my observation, for example, I have interviewed a lot of famous people which have become, for example, have become CEO of a pension fund or of mutual funds, or people which have which are doing, CEO, for example, of financial firms. And always, there is a reference to some teaching that they have acquired from parents or grandparents about money. And I just want to mention an example. John Rogers, which is the CEO and founder of Ariel Investment in the US, one of the very big mutual fund here, and used to be the chair of the President Obama Advisory Council for Financial Literacy, so a very important and, in a sense, influential financial, CEO. He has always mentioned that at the Christmas time, his father gave him as gift stocks. And that got him interested in stocks and the stock market. And, he started basically investing even when he was in college. And after a few years after college, he has founded Ariel Investments. So we should not underevaluate just how important it is, to be exposed to this topic at this very early age. People become comfortable with money. You had mentioned earlier, money is taboo, but it's not taboo if we talk about this early on. And of course, in my experience as well, I always hear about this from men. So, we seem to talk about money to maybe our boys and so on, but not enough to girls. And so it's incredibly important, let me tell you, to talk about money, as soon as possible. Do it with your daughters as well, not only with your sons.
I have two daughters, so I think I know what I'm getting them for Christmas after your great advice. But talking about investing, I'm very much interested in getting your experience and your view regarding any behavioral differences that there might be between men and women in how they approach investment. And that's a very, very crucial topic, especially regarding green finance and sustainability. And also, as a quick follow-up, does self-confidence play a role? We've seen it play a role in our research here in Greece when it comes to approaching personal finance. Is that a big component?
I'm very glad you asked these questions because we have done a lot of research on these topics. The first thing we notice when it comes to, for example, investment in stocks, going back, for example, to John Rogers, but also going back to the evidence from the data, we see that women are much less likely to invest in the stock market and are much less likely to invest, for example, in risky assets. So we try to look into this a little bit more, and we realize that there is an important role for financial literacy when it comes to investment. Then when we look at the financial literacy itself, we notice another important part, which is that when we ask questions, financial literacy questions, to women, they disproportionately say, I do not know the answer to the questions, much more than men, even though sometimes these questions are pretty simple. And this will bring me to this topic of confidence, because we did an experiment. We took away the do not know options, and we forced women to answer the questions. And what we found is that women, when forced to answer, they were indeed able to answer the question. They knew the answer to these questions, but they didn't have the confidence, in a sense, to do so. So this little experiment allowed us to even put a number on how much confidence account for this financial literacy gap. Because sometimes women, by not answering the questions, it's not that they are incorrect, they just are not confident enough. And what we found is that as much as 1/3 of this difference in financial literacy between women and men is due to confidence. But confidence matters. So what we found is that both financial literacy and confidence are two important reasons why women do not invest in the stock market. And I'm saying that because, as you might know, and as you might have seen it, they put a statue of a girl in front of the raging bull at the Wall Street, and now this statue sits in front of the New York Stock Exchange. It is called Fearless Girl. And I actually think it is a good name, a good statue, and it gives a great suggestions to women, which is you have got to be fearless, in particular when it comes to investing in the stock market. So I think we should all take these suggestions. Let's be fearless. Let's invest in the stock market because it's a really great way to build wealth in the long term.
Thank you so much for your incredible contribution. And I think you leave us with this incredible message of women being fearless investors, women being fearless in whatever endeavor they decide to take on. Thank you so much. We will be joined by Ambassador Jeffrey Pyatt straight away. Thank you, Professor Lusardi, for being with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.